There he is. He's back. All right. Welcome to the Side Action, episode 4 of season 5. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegs on Twitter and on Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast is Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast actually on Instagram. I was corrected by my nephew. Thank you, Cooper. He's our social media guru. We have a link tree. Did you know that? Actually, we have a link tree.
Yeah. Link trees are growing all throughout my neighborhood, so I'm glad that we have one on our page.
So anyway, Action, obviously, hopefully this will be an episode, mistake-free of technical issues. Sorry, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Had some remotes, haven't worked out so great, but we're back to our studios. We've got the Ferndale studio. We've got the Edgewater studio in full effect. Let's do this, Action.
No background this week, though. We get to see the beautiful family photos in the back. I like this just as much as the Side Action background.
Yeah, the Side Action background is good, but it's kind of weird, moving around.
Yeah.
It's like a weird thing. Just everybody wants to see the pictures back there. I got to put up a new picture, actually.
Nice.
Point here and rearrange some things, but so I'm going to give you a couple of updates. First of all, actually, I forgot to mention last week in the Vegas recap, as you see, I'm wearing the original Millionaire Maker hat today.
The OG.
We did not get a hat this year, Action. We signed up late. They ran out of the Millionaire Maker hats.
What?
Yes. They're like, do you want a Survivor hat? I'm like, no, I do not want the Survivor hat. I want a Millionaire Maker hat. They ran out. It was after 12 o'clock. We were SOL, man. So I was banking on that hat at the pool so it wouldn't burn my face off.
They didn't get anywhere close to 6,000 entries. I mean, that was the guarantee. How could they not have ordered 6,000 hats?
That's exactly what I said to the proxy. I said, this doesn't make any sense. How do you have more Survivor hats when you had 6,100 entries?
Yeah.
Maybe she got confused. Maybe I should have talked to another individual. I don't know. I was taken aback. So if we don't do great this year, we can blame that we don't have a hat to fall back on.
Or we could look at it the other way around, that it's an omen that we don't need their stinking hat. We'll just take the money.
Exactly. Give me the money. Give me the money. So let me give you a Shockers update. This is obviously everybody's favorite flag football team. We did get the win last week, Action. I will tell you, much like a lot of these NFL games that we'll talk about, we didn't have a quarterback, first of all. We had to put Jimmy Ronis to Q. So, that was interesting. Came out leading 20-0 in this game after our first possession in the second half. Just like these other teams, gave up a ton of points. Ended up winning 20-19, holding out for the last play of the game. They went for 2 in the win, and we stopped them. Actually, they threw out of bounds. We got our first win, but we probably didn't cover the number in that one.
Wow, it sounds like it came down to the wire, just like most NFL games this season. It sounds exciting. Sorry, I missed it.
It was 85 degrees. I think some fitness was involved. There was some people tired. Prime, we talked about prime time. He kind of played, but took a shot in the back, went out. He's on the IR now. We're not sure if he's going to come back. And another young guy made a great play, hurt his knee. It's carnage out there on the flag football field, just like in the NFL.
Well, I certainly miss playing, but not the injury part of the game.
Exactly. So what do we got here? You said new odds screen, Spank Odds. What do we got here?
Yeah, I wanted to report on this last week, but I forgot about it. Spanky, who is like a well-known gambler in the Twitter sphere, and I think he has his own podcast as well. He recently came out with a new product that he debuted, and it's free at the moment. I'm not sure if they're planning to charge at some point in the future, but if you go to spankodds.com, you get to download a little JavaScript program to your computer, and it provides live odds from across way more books than I've ever even heard of. And the cool part about it is that you can toggle through all the different first half, quarter, full game odds. You can look at team totals. There are so many options that you can look on the odds screen. And if you have it up while you're handicapping, you can see the line moves in real time. It provides little flashes up on the screen to give you an idea of where the money's moving. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And that's an actual website.
Yeah, it's a website. It's if you log in or if you go to the website, you give them your email address, and then they send you a link with your personal username and password. But it's free.
Nice, free. I like free. I like free.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing I didn't mention last week on updates, we used to go over this all the time, like state by state updates. It's gotten so commonplace, but apparently California is very close on passing
Yeah.
legalization bill. But one of the sticking points is, well, the money's supposed to go to help fund homeless, like homeless shelters and stuff and housing, which is near and dear to my heart. But apparently there's different sides of the fence that people are on and against it because some of the money will go to, I guess, what would I call it? Non-gaming tribes
Yeah.
of Native Americans, because obviously the money is generated a lot of times on reservation land that have gaming, but there are some reservations that don't have gaming. So there's actually opposition on both sides there from different tribes. So it's kind of a hotly contested thing. My brother sent me that. I'm sure he's not listening, but I told him I mentioned the podcast.
Yeah, there's two separate bills actually. One is for in-person brick and mortar shops only,
Hmm.
and then the separate one is for the online gaming, which would obviously do like 10x in terms of volume. And that's
Sure.
the one that's tied to the homeless funding. So, I
Mhm.
mean, it's going to be very interesting to see if either of them pass. I suppose that both of them could pass as well. I mean, they're completely separate bills.
And you'd think that that would probably surpass the Jersey handle, which has been the
Oh,
dominant one so far. At some point, New York is legal now too, right?
yep,
But
yep.
maybe that'll surpass. Maybe it'll switch with Jersey because a lot of that was crossing the border from New
Hmm.
York. So, well, we don't forget our roots of talking about
That's
the
right.
when we were only like one place, two places were legal. So. All right, well, let's talk about the NFL week 2 in review. Interesting week. We could talk about preview everybody. Sorry, we let you down. We didn't have a great week in the picks, but we'll go over that. Some key injuries. One of them, I think, actually helps the team. Trey Lance out for the year, ankle broken, awful injury. Didn't look good. They replayed it too many times. Jimmy G steps in. He may not be 100% himself, but he played very well. And obviously, we knew that they were probably going to beat Seattle, but they kind of trounced them 27-7. You also had the rookie running back, get out of there too, Tyron Davis Price, and you've got your Marlon Mack, your former team, Colt guy, in there. So the Niners prospects, I think they pick up. Jimmy
Yeah.
G's in there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we talked about it in the season preview about how we couldn't bet on the Niners in any season-long wagers because of so many unknowns with the quarterback Trey Lance. And I think immediately you saw. I wasn't watching the game, but I saw the highlights, and the team obviously uplifted after Garoppolo came into the game. You could see the energy pick up on both sides of the ball, and it's clear that they are really liking Jimmy G under center.
Yeah, it's a shame for Lance. I mean, we can talk about the prospects, and I always like the Niners. You know, with him in there was not as good, but young guy. Hopefully his ankle can recover. It was a nasty injury, so hopefully he can recover and have a good career. But tough break for him.
Mm-hmm.
In other news, you've got Mike Evans. He got suspended for week 3. It was a really unique play where I don't know, Lattimore was getting in Brady's face or something, and Evans and them were going at it all game. Evans comes in and just jacks Lattimore. A fight ensues. He gets kicked out of the game. Sometimes you don't see a suspension because he did miss half the game, but he's going to miss all of week 3. You've also noted a ton of injuries for the Bucs, including Akeem Hicks, who used to be a Bear. He's out for a month with plantar fascia tear. We knew Godwin was already out. Julio's, who knows if he's going to play. And Perryman, Russell Gage, Scotty Miller. I mean, I think maybe I could suit up. Although Cole Beasley was signed for the Bucs, maybe I can suit up if I get my stomach in shape after drinking all week. What do you think about how does this affect the Bucs this week?
Well, I mean, it's not looking good. I think the biggest concern is the injury core. I mean, the wide receiver core, because you hear this term all the time in gambling circles, cluster injuries, and I mean, the wide receivers are decimated for this team,
Hmm.
and we've already seen some injuries on their offensive line as well, and so they're not giving Brady a ton of protection and time in the pocket to throw, and just
Right.
add in all these wide receiver injuries. I think it's going to make an offense that was mediocre at best so far this season a little bit poorer. And it's going to be tough for them to score on Sunday against a decent Packers defense.
Right. We'll talk about that later. So let's talk about last week, some of the highlighted games that I put out there. Not all of these were our picks, but obviously the crazy game, the Ravens game. Ravens were up gigantic in this game. I think they were up 24-7 and then 35-14. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Ravens were 3.5-point favorites at home. And all of a sudden, Tua put on a cape, but I don't know if it was as much Tua as that defense just, I don't know what the hell they were doing, leaving people wide open. Tyreek Hill with a gigantic touchdown, Waddle with a touchdown. I mean, it was like 6 touchdown passes, 4 of which in the fourth quarter from Tua, and they come all the way back to win in regulation, 42-38. Crazy comeback. And it was funny because I thought that was a rocking chair game at some point in the third quarter. And, it's never over in the NFL, I guess.
Yeah. And, usually this Baltimore Ravens team is really good at burying their opponents when they get leads like that, just because they're so successful at running the ball. But so far through 2 weeks, this team is not being able to run it. Dobbins hasn't suited up yet, and teams are really keying in on Lamar Jackson and his running ability. Now, they have been successful passing it, but I mean, that in itself is what allowed Miami to get back in the game in that fourth quarter, because the Ravens just couldn't keep the clock moving.
Right, exactly. Sorry, bad note here. Colts, TBD. They were terrible. Shut out in Jacksonville. They were our pick. They lost 24-0. Let's go into the Colts in a minute. But first of all, this team hasn't won in Jacksonville since 2014. I don't understand that because the Jags haven't been good in that stretch. So I know there's great strip clubs down there. It's possible it's like a Vegas flu, like a Jacksonville flu or something. But what the hell is wrong with the Colts? You think it's Matt Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some reports already that Matt Ryan is cooked and he just doesn't have the same arm that he's had in a couple of years past. Right. But to answer your question about Jacksonville, I don't know what it is. I can't give you a good reason, but for whatever reason, I mean, the temperature was certainly higher than it would be later in the year, but I mean, that doesn't hold water because they lost in January last year in Jacksonville. So I don't think it's the heat and humidity. I think it's just something to do with that team and that city, and perhaps the coaching mismatch. Reich and Peterson used to coach together in Philadelphia, and so there may have been a little bit of a mentor-mentee thing there last week. But outside of that, I think the wide receiver injuries were very problematic. Ashton Dulin was the top targeted wide receiver, and without the weapons there on the outside, Matt Ryan is even more pedestrian than normal.
Well, and the defense hasn't performed well either. So I guess we can talk. Are they going to get, what's his name now? Darius? Shaq now. Are they getting Shaq this week? Is he back? Because he didn't play last week.
Yeah, I saw some reports that he's been practicing this week, although that was the same last week. So I thought he was going to be back and didn't suit up, but I think he's going to be out there on Sunday.
Okay. All right. This one, bizarre situation. Panthers, I mean, they were going in, they were the dog, right? Didn't we have 2.5 or something on this one? And then they went to 1 point. They closed as a favorite. They still lost the game outright. The Giants, it was kind of a lame game, actually, considering all the other games. But final score 19-16. Giants win. Now they're 2-0, actually, which is shocking. I've noted they're struggling to protect Baker, and McCaffrey's not doing shit. So kind of a weird turn of events. We'll talk about them again this week, but I don't know. Is it you think this is more of a Giants victory or just Carolina just can't put it together?
I wouldn't characterize this one as a Giants victory. I think Carolina actually played really well in the game. They just had a couple of fluke plays where they gave up. There was a 6-point swing in there just based on a couple of flukes. And, it was a really tight, contested, low-scoring game. And I really still believe that Carolina was the right side and that the Giants really didn't deserve that victory.
Yeah, the books like that a lot because all that money came in.
Oh yeah, and that's 2 weeks in a row that you've seen Sunday morning money come in on Carolina. So there's obviously some groups out there with a lot of money that like the Panthers.
Yeah. All right, we were on the Saints. The Saints used to have Tom Brady's number, but this was a tight game. This was 3-3 into the fourth quarter, and then I don't know. A couple things happened. First of all, Jameis Winston was playing with a fractured vertebrae. I don't know why the hell he's playing, but he was playing and he did what he does, turns the ball over, a couple late picks, and the Bucs flipped the game and won pretty easily 20-10. So the Saints didn't cover that plus 2.5. I don't know that, I don't trust Jameis anyway, and Kamara hasn't played yet, so maybe they'll play better. The Bucs are just playing these grind 'em games now. It's not about high flying like they've been in the last couple seasons.
Yeah, yeah, 190 pass yards for Brady, and Fournette only had 65 on the ground. I think that the Saints defense really bottled them up.
Mhm.
And I will say that the Lattimore getting ejected completely changed the game
Yeah,
because he was bottling up Evans and the other receiver, mostly Evans, but really stopping that offense. And then as soon as that play happened, the Bucs just went on a run, aided by a few penalty flags, which we don't
yeah,
really need to talk about. But
questionable.
I
Mhm.
believe that if that little scuffle and ensuing fight didn't happen, that the Saints would have pulled that one out.
Yeah, yeah. Another bad one for us, the Rams. This is another game where they were killing their opponents. They're playing Atlanta at home. They were our survivor. We survived, but they were 10-point favorites. They were up by, was it 28-3 in this game? I think in the third quarter. They're covering still late. They let Atlanta block a punt and return it for a touchdown. It's the first time in 21 years the Falcons have done that. They also get a late safety. So, I mean, it wasn't even close to a cover. They won the game 31-27. It did hurt our pick. It's fascinating how these guys can't hold leads anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a pick six late in the first half too, which
Mhm.
gave the Rams their big lead. So I kind of call those a wash in reality. And, they certainly should have held on, but this is the second week in a row that the Falcons offense has been exceeded odds makers' expectations. And so
Yep.
that's really my takeaway from the game.
Okay. Last one, the only one we hit action was the Texans, plus 10. It was kind of a nail biter for us trying to get one on the board. This Broncos team could not score on this team. Hackett seems over his head as a coach for Denver. Um, the futility in the red zone for Denver is continues as last week they had the two fumbles on the one. They had, you know, whatever. I think they had a field goal situation. They probably should have gone for it. Then they had a penalty that knocked them out of field goal range. It just seems like this team can't piece it together. They did get the win in Denver 16-9, but we got the cover and the Texans are they're playing ugly, but they're staying in games.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, defense is playing pretty good, even though they're still about middle of the pack according to DVOA. I think my takeaway on this was just the futility of this Denver offense. Again, Russell Wilson, like 200 passing yards, and only being able to put up 16 points against the Houston Texans defense a week after uh, playing poorly against the Seattle Seahawks defense raises some serious red flags in my mind, especially going up against San Francisco this weekend.
Agreed, agreed. Let's go over three more games that weren't on our card. The Bengals, they were 7-point favorites going into Dallas. You did mention this on the pod that you didn't trust that. I mean, the Dallas defense is pretty good. Let's face that. They didn't
Mm-hmm,
have
mm-hmm.
Dak, Cooper Rush, now 2-0 against the spread and 2-0 as a starter. But it's really the offensive line. Burrow sacked over and over again. I think he's been sacked 14 times in the first two games, which is incredible. Now they were down, I think it was 17-0 or 17-3. Came all the way back to tie, but obviously Cooper Rush led his team to the victory with a late field goal. What's going on with the Bengals?
They just can't protect Burrow. I mean, another game where the opposing defense got a ton of pressure on him and sacks. And, you got to say, though, uh, you have to look at the strength of schedule. The
Right.
Steelers and the Cowboys are probably two of the most relentless defensive lines in the
Yeah.
league. And so things are only going to go up from here, I believe, for this offensive line.
Well, that's a little foreshadowing, I think. But yes, well, Micah Parsons not going to be playing for the Jets. Okay, Raiders. What the WTF? This another one up 20-20. I think it was 23-0. I put 20-0. They were 23-0 in this game. They were 5.5-point favorites at home. It seemed like Cliff Kingsbury was about to get fired at halftime, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden they let the Roadrunner run around there, just making him look silly out there. And Kyler Murray woke up, played great, tied the game. A little bit controversial in my mind on the defensive holding on
Mhm.
fourth down in the last 5 seconds, but They ended up getting the score, getting the 2-point conversion to tie, and then they they won in overtime 29-23. So the Raiders not only didn't cover, but lose outright, and it goes over, which was, that was your cash ticket. But another game where teams just cannot hold leads.
Yeah, you have to remind me of that miraculous over later on in the season when I whine about a bad beat, because that was definitely a miracle to go over 51.5. I just think the Raiders are overrated, to be
Yeah.
honest. They're just not, they won a lot of really close games last year, and I think that record from last season and making the playoffs gave them a little bit of an inflated look this year from the public and the odds makers alike, and I just don't think they're very good. So, they built a big lead, but Devontae Adams didn't play very well last week. The Cardinals, even though they have a pretty weak defense, they were able to bottle him up. And then letting Kyler Murray and an offense with no real weapons come back that late was also giving me some question marks.
Right. We didn't even put this on the card, by the way, but we should just mention it. One of the biggest busts, especially for Survivor, were the Browns against the Jets. Up by, what was it, up by 13 points?
Yeah, with 2
13
minutes left.
points with a minute 55 left to go the game. They let Joe Flacco get his first win in like 5 years, scoring twice. It's unbelievable. And what's funny is it's one of those situations. Chubb, if he actually kneels down, and not score, they probably can just run the clock out. Instead, gets the score, goes up by the 13. They missed the extra point, which cost them, and then they let them come back, and the Jets get their win. And not only, I mean, broke a lot of hearts. I know, I mean, I think it was the contest pick, but a lot of people were in on that pick.
Oh, yeah, certainly a survivor pick, heavy survivor pick last week.
Last one you noted is the Eagles. They do look really good. Darius Slay shut down Jefferson. They won easily in this game. This game wasn't close. Your guy, Jalen Hurts, I hope you have an MVP ticket on him. He's putting up big points here. You have 333 passing yards, 57 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. The Eagles look like they might be for real.
Yeah, I already cashed my Josh Allen MVP ticket in my mind. So my one and only this year. But I mean, the Eagles were awesome. I was very impressed. I had a ticket on the Vikings last week, and that one was going nowhere fast because that defense was awesome, and they just couldn't stop Jalen Hurts on the other side. I think he put up many of these numbers in the first half, in fact.
Yeah.
330 passing yards, 57 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And he is playing like an MVP caliber quarterback, no doubt.
And A.J. Brown seems to be a good move. He's playing really well for them. And trust me, my coworkers were watching that at the retreat, and everybody was drinking it up. So it was a fun night. I thought it'd be a better game, frankly.
Yeah, me too.
Both those games, the Buffalo, crushed Tennessee. So on the week, you've noted underdogs came in 10-5-1, unders 11-5. Again, just massacring. Besides like a couple of those high-scoring shootouts at the end. Spread only came into play 3 games, so you're about 15% on the season. 2 or 3 games a week is kind of what the average is right now, where a winner hasn't covered, but it did happen. I mean, the Chiefs didn't cover against the Chargers last week, so just some of the overall numbers. We'll see when that starts flipping back to the favorites and the overs at some point. All right, well, let's go to week 3. Obviously, the game's going to be played tonight. We're taping on Thursday, the 22nd. You don't want to talk too much about it, but the Pittsburgh is playing Cleveland. Cleveland in the contest is a 4-point favorite. This total is plummeting. I don't even know it's 38 now because the wind, I heard, is like 20 miles an hour. My only thing I wanted to say about this, besides, it should be a Nick Chubb game and all, is will Trubisky get benched in this game, or will this be his last start? Because a lot of people are talking about it, whether Pickett, and I don't know if you heard, Pickens was saying he's been wide open for 2 games and not getting the ball. So whether he starts, maybe he'll play an aggressive game, but in that wind, it's not going to help him.
Yeah, I don't think Trubisky's going to throw it downfield tonight. That's for sure. I dabbled a little bit on the Steelers when it got to 4.5, and I did play the first half under as well. So hoping for a low-scoring game and the Steelers get in the door there.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about the other games. I mean, my team, which sucked on Sunday night, I'm glad we didn't put that as a comment period. No surprise there. Probably should have gone with that one. The Texans come in as a 2.5-point dog in this game. total around 40, open at 39.5. I can't believe the Bears are favored. I can't do it, Action. Obviously our guy and my guy, Fields is not looking great. The Bears defense, I mean, it was about right. That I knew that was going to happen. I thought they played a little bit better. I mean, they got that one touchdown reversed against Green Bay, but 2.5, this is basically saying these teams are even, and I don't think that's true. That's not what the metrics say. So I'm happy to stay away in this one, but if we were going anywhere, I'd have to go with Houston.
Yeah, I definitely would lean to the Houston too. Was really hoping that it would be 3 points, though. I think it's tough to go to the window with them at 2.5 because I dove into the numbers a little bit too, and their defense has been playing pretty good, but the rush defense is not quite as good as their pass defense. And when you're handicapping the Chicago Bears, you got to know that Justin Fields just isn't going to throw the ball, and he's certainly not going to make many completions. So it's going to be a Montgomery game, and I think the Bears are going to be looked to ground and pound, and I don't think that Houston is going to have as much success stopping that facet of the Bears offense.
Right, right.
I do really like the under in this game, though. I nipped it when it reached 41 at some point. I was shocked to see that it went 38.5 up to 40 and up to 41, which is a key number. And I just don't see many points being scored on Sunday.
Yeah, neither of these teams are putting up big points. I mean, even the first game against the Colts, Houston put up 20, but this is a defensive battle, so I agree with you. It'd be an under game. Next game is the Eagles again. They're playing their rivals in the Commanders. Never been the Commanders being the rivalry, but Washington. This game obviously moved after Monday night. It was open at -5 for the road favorite on the Eagles. Now it's 6.5. Total's coming down from 50.5 to 47. I'm a little surprised at that. The Commanders have scored a lot of points. The Eagles, we know they can score. Yes, their defense has played better. I mean, the Eagles did last week against Minnesota. I think this would be kind of a shootout game. 6.5 seems a little bit big for me, even though as well as the Eagles are playing. So I'm not saying we should take Washington because we know we've been burned on Wentz before, but all the numbers to me tell you should take Washington or pass.
Yeah, division game. The Eagles are going on the road. However, this is one home field where I think is even lower than 2 points. I mean, I think you'd be lucky to squeeze out one for Washington home field advantage, especially against the Eagles with the crowd who is probably revved up. Well, you can tell me, you were there on Monday. They're probably more pumped about this team than they have been in like a decade.
Oh, there's no question.
I expect that it might be more than 50% Eagles fans on Sunday. And so I think that home field advantage might be like 0 in this game. I initially had the same gut reaction that you did, that Washington would be the look. But when I dive into some of their numbers, granted it's 2 weeks in, I don't see how the Washington defense is going to stop the Philly rushing attack. They're giving up league worst 7.5 yards per carry on the ground. And I think that the Eagles are just going to destroy them on that side of the ball. And on the other side, I think that the Eagles pass defense is going to be able to stop this Carson Wentz passing attack. So I think that there's actually some value on the Eagles at 6.5.
Well, I shouldn't say nobody's going to pick them, but I think it'd be a low pick just because of the number, I would think. Maybe not. It's under 7, but let's put it as a yellow.
Okay.
We can discuss. Just because Eagles are a team that I can at least be confident betting on. I mean, the team has played. I mean, they did lose. They didn't take the money in week 1.
Yeah.
But
the one bet I did make and that I really love, I know you mentioned the total going down. It's presumably just because of division matchup and these teams know each other well. But I don't see how Washington's going to stop them. So I played the Eagles team total at 27 to go over. I just don't see how they can prevent them from scoring 27 points.
Okay, got it. This is an interesting game. The Raiders are playing the Titans. Both these teams were playoff teams a year ago. It opened at -2 for the Raiders on the road. 45-point total up to 45.5 right now. You said it earlier. I can't back the Raiders as a favorite, certainly not on the road. The Titans haven't won a game. Both these teams are 0-2. Actually, it's kind of almost an early elimination game in the AFC, if you ask me. I don't think either of these teams can make it after they go 0-3. I'd be comfortable backing the Titans here, even though they haven't played well. just because I don't think the Raiders are that good. And at some point, and it may not be Derrick Henry, maybe it's somebody else, maybe it's just the passing attack isn't as good without A.J. Brown, but the Titans are going to play better. They should have won week one. They didn't play good this week against Buffalo, but Buffalo's a Super Bowl contender. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have no interest in the Raiders as a road dog here. I was shocked to see that number as well.
Sorry,
I actually, I played preseason. I played a couple of like random look aheads, some things that I heard, and so I bet the Titans -1 in this spot preseason. Obviously not a good number now, but
right.
you have to think that some of their metrics are going to be depressed just because of their opponents that they played in the first 2 weeks. Certainly the Buffalo smashing didn't help their numbers, but they are a negative 1.8 yards per play on net this season, mostly due to that game last week against Buffalo. And on the other side, Las Vegas is gaining 0.1 yards per play. So pretty big disparity there. But as I touched on in the top, I think that the Raiders are way overrated. And I do think that they're going to be able to hold down Devontae Adams a little bit, despite getting blown up by Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs last week. I think that they're going to be pretty focused on Devontae Adams. And I'm not sure about the status of Hunter Renfrow. I know he fumbled twice at the end last week, but
Right.
I saw that he popped up on the injury report as well.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I mean that's important, but I think it's more can Vrabel get his team right? I just believe in him as a
Mm-hmm.
coach, and at some point they're gonna man up and play better. I mean, like you said, they got just roughshod over. The Bills did everything they wanted last week, but I don't think the Raiders can do the same. So
And this number tells us that 2 points that the Raiders are 4 points better on a neutral field, and I'm just not sure that adds up for me.
I agree, 100%. All right, here we go. KC Chiefs going to the Colts. Your Colts 0-1-1 on the season. It opened as a 6.5-point favorite for the Chiefs on the road. 49-point total. It's 5.5 now. 49.5-point total. All the numbers to me say you need to. And I shouldn't say the numbers. All the instinct to me says you have to play the Colts here. They're not going to go 0-2-1, but the Chiefs. I mean, they didn't play great last week. In fact, they didn't play great. They won the game, but they didn't look great. It's really about the defense. Can the defense slow down the Chiefs? Because I think the offense might get a little bit right here playing the Chiefs, but
Yeah.
5.5 is a pretty big number. It did get. I mean, obviously the money's got to be going to the Colts if it came down as 5.5. But what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I mean, your intuition is right. And you've seen the number move that way too, because it reached 7 at one point this week, and I swiftly jumped on the Colts +7. Now at 5.5, though, I think it's a little bit less palatable. You know, I agree that the team is now 0-1-1, right? It seems like it's 0-2.
I
Damn
know.
well should be 0-2. And historically speaking, taking the 0-2 side versus the 2-0 opponent, and then add in the fact that they're at home, this seems like a slam dunk. But I think it's probably one that we're better off just sitting on the sidelines and seeing if Matt Ryan and the wide receivers can get back on track this week.
Okay, I'm good with it. I'm okay to sit. I mean, the Colts got to show us something, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to mention, by the way, probably mistakenly, I took Cleveland in my Survivor this week.
Oh,
It's a
wow.
tough week for Survivor, dude. This is a
Yeah.
real week. I mean, this is a team you could take the Eagles on the road, you could take, Kansas City on the road, but it's a tough week to find like a home favorite that you feel good about. So,
Yeah. I was lining up the Chargers, but certainly want to monitor Herbert's status.
exactly. All right, next game, NFC North rivalry, Detroit against Minnesota. This game's opened as 6-point favorites for Minnesota. It stayed there at 6. Total's gone from 52 to 53.5. So there should be points scored. Minnesota got shut down last week, but you saw what they did in week 1, and they had that electric offense. The Lions have scored at will, regardless, and their defense sucks. So I do think that movement to the over makes sense. 6 seems like a big number, even though I think the Vikings are probably a better football team. I'm not sure I can back them in the contest, but what do you think?
Yeah, kind of counterintuitive. on the move on the total being another division game here, but I certainly can see where the public believes there's going to be a lot of points in this game, given the Lions 2 out of 2 over so far this season. I think, though, this is another team where you've seen, we talked about the Panthers earlier, where money has come on them in both Sunday mornings. Well, when you look at the Lions, there are some considerable moves on them against them both Sunday mornings. And I think that is just some sharps going against the hard knocks inflation.
Yep.
And so for that reason, I think that for me, it's Vikings or pass in this game, because I think that they're certainly going to be able to get right offensively, and Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and company will be able to pass at will against this Lions secondary. And I think that defensively, the Vikings will be able to shut down the Lions offense a little bit more than their previous opponents.
Another stat we didn't mention last week, but I remembered when I was watching the Vikings getting trounced. Kirk Cousins 2 and like 39 in prime time. He's great in the 1 o'clock window.
True.
I mean, he's really good. So to your point, I think he gets right if you're a fantasy person. Okay, well, let's stay away for now unless we need another pick, because
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to. I mean, like I said, the Lions are getting lots of buzz. Aiden, what's his name, is on the injury report too. The rookie.
Hutch.
Hutch, yeah, he's
Really?
on the injury report. He did some drills on the side with a sleeve on his leg. I guess he got hurt in the second half last week.
Huh. And I mean, I was just going to add too. We didn't talk about it, but you got to feel like the favorites are going to bounce back a little bit this week. We've had 2 underdog weeks in a row now, week 1 and 2, and I think we would be right to side more on the favorites this week.
Yeah, it's going to level out at some point, right? Okay, here we go. New Orleans goes to Carolina. New Orleans open as a 2.5 point favorite on the road. 40.5 point total. This is probably going to be a slugfest. It's kind of weird because back in the day this would have been high scoring and now it's not. I know. Well, here's my take. I know that I said early in the season I really like the Panthers, and I still do. I'm like all the bettors out there. I think their defense is pretty good. It's really Baker in this offense. Can they do anything? Like the Saints are good on defense. We know that. I don't trust Jameis, and I can't back the Saints. I can't back at that 2.5 on the road in the division. So I'm not sure if I can get you on board with Carolina, but you know, to me, it's Carolina or pass again. I know I got us on there last week, but the value to me is on Carolina here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely want no part of the Saints as road favorites here inside the division. Would have liked to seen 3 on this game, but not surprised that the contest makers kind of followed the market here and put the 2.5 up there. But I'm kind of thinking that we should pass too, because I did see that Kamara is expected to be back this week, and I think that's going to give a little bit of even more of a boost to that Saints offense. Included Michael Thomas is actually playing well this season as well, so I kind of think pass.
Okay, I'm okay to pass. All right, here we go. The Bengals and the Jets. Bengals open as a 5 point favorite on the road. They're up to a 6 in the contest. Total's gone from 43 to 45. A little interesting because of all these unders in our games. But I do understand why people are betting on the Bengals. Again, it's a gut feel. They're 0-2. They're not going to go 0-3. The Jets defense is not as good as these other defenses. So I would be okay backing the Bengals, although it's a big number on the road.
Yeah, 6 points though. I mean, it certainly could be 7.
Yeah.
You have to. Do you think that the outcome of the Browns-Jets game on Sunday changed this number a little bit? Well, coupled with the fact that the Bengals lost again. I mean, the look ahead on this game certainly was a touchdown greater, and now we're getting 6. So feels like that there's a little bit of value there siding with the Bengals in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I mean, the Jets could have been coming to this game 0-2 and only scoring 15 points or something. They scored a lot of points late in that game. And the Bengals, it's protection. Can the Jets get after Burrow? I don't think they can. They don't have the same front four that they've faced in the last 2 games. You give some time to the Bengals, they're going to score some points. So I think that I understand the move on the total too. The Jets, Flacco had his one shot in the sun. I think this is actually, it could be a one-sided game actually. So I'm on the Bengals here.
I do like the over as well, now that you mention it, although I would certainly want to make sure I got 44.5 or better, with 45 being the key number.
Right, right. Are we going green here or just yellow?
I'm good for green.
Okay. That's not gang green. That's not go green for the Jets, everybody. And
Good
normally we
call.
go Jets. It was funny because I told Rainmaker, he asked me for some, money line picks last week, and of course I gave him two trash ones that didn't work. But I told him if you feel lucky, go with the Jets, because I just had a feeling about the Jets, given Jacoby Brissett and all that stuff. Even though early in that game didn't look good, but they did.
Yeah,
They got the money line winner in that one.
nice. Did he bet it?
Probably not. He probably bet the Saints, like I told him about the stupid Saints, and they lose. Um, all right, so this is two more in the 1 o'clock window. Big matchup in the AFC East. Buffalo Bills go to Miami. This game opened as a 5.5 point favorite for the Bills on the road. Stayed at 5.5. Totals ticked up from 51.5 to 53.5. We'll probably differ on this game action, and that's okay. But I think the Bills are way better than the Dolphins. I mean, if you took off that quarter for Miami, or quarter and a half, Miami has barely scored on offense. And they play the Ravens, which I still don't know what happened to the Ravens. But the Bills are full throttle. So I don't know. This number hasn't really moved. So it's not like a lot of money besides the total going up. The Bills are the complete package. I know they'll be in Miami. Maybe they'll get tired, blah, blah, blah. I think it's a statement game for the Bills to just smash the Dolphins here.
I agree. I do. It's tough because the wannabe sharp in me knows that the sharp pick is going to be Miami in this game. And this is
Right.
another team where you've seen money come in on them Sundays. The last 2 weeks we had a opponent, the New England Patriots, in week 1, and then last week as well, money came in on the Dolphins side. But I agree with you that this Buffalo team is kicking ass and taking names. They're giving up 3.6 yards per play on the season, and they're gaining 6.7 on offense for a delta of 3 yards per play, which is like triple of the maximum that I've seen from good teams in years past. So they certainly are putting their foot on opponents' throats. And I heard a stat the other day that their last 22 wins, the last 22 games that they've won have all been by double digits. And so they clearly don't let up when they get a small lead, and they look to bury their opponents, which I think is always something that you want to see when you're betting on favorites. And I'm with you. I like the Bills.
Yeah, the one counter I've heard this week is that they've got rookie corners, and Hill and Waddle will eat them up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I just think McDermott's too smart to, first of all, go one-on-one. Secondly, he's going to set up zones, and that pressure will get to Tua. Yep. The thing about Tua is, and obviously I'm not going to, I've dogged Tua in the past. Look, those dudes were wide open. It wasn't like these were tight windows he's throwing in. He's going to have to make better throws against Buffalo in this one, and I don't think he can do it. So I'm on board. I'm saying we go green here.
Yeah, I also heard a report this week, somebody who was looking at the all 22, and the Ravens were playing press coverage in that fourth quarter against the receivers, and Hill and Waddle were just running right by them. And Kyle Hamilton, the rookie safety, is probably the slow. That's why he dropped so far in the draft, is how slow he is.
Right.
And the Bills are known for playing that zone defense where they keep players in front of them and then just swarm to the ball. So I think you're absolutely right. The Bills defense is set up to stop this offensive attack. And then on the other side, I don't think there's any defense in the league that can stop the Bills.
Right. Not right now. All right. Green it up. All right. Last one in the 1 o'clock window. You've got the Ravens going to the Patriots. Ravens opened as a 3-point favorite. Now it's 2.5 in the contest. Total's gone from 44 to 43.5. So not tons of movement. Key number there, 2.5. Now they are on the road. Patriots did get the win at Steelers, kind of as I expected. They weren't going to go down 0-2. Ravens are better than the Patriots, so I think this is kind of the right line. It may just be no value. So I back the Ravens here if you want. Otherwise, I'd stay away. So what do you say?
Yeah, this is tough because the Circa contest makers are telling us something, I believe, because there's a lot of threes in the market. And I think that they're telling us where they think this line is going to go by Sunday morning. And I don't know if that's injury speculation. I know that Dobbins still hasn't played, and I don't know what his status is currently. And I think that they also picked up a couple of injuries in the secondary last week against Miami. So
You did.
I think it's going to be tough to get on board with the Ravens, to be quite honest with you. Although I am down on the Patriots, and I think that the Ravens are the better team, certainly. It's probably a pass in my mind.
No problem. Okay, passing. I'll just watch it comfortably. I'm trying to go to the Four Shadows this week and not get too drunk, but watch the games.
There you go.
All right, so the 4 o'clock window, we've got the Jags, the darlings of the league now, going to the Chargers, and this is an interesting, matchup here. The opener, I don't think it's the opener listed, but it's probably right around that 7, or maybe it was a little bit higher. I'm not sure, but the Chargers are now a 7-point favorite in the contest, 48-point total. The critical number, the thing is Herbert going to play or not?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know. So I agree with you on the Survivor. If Herbert was playing, that's the clear Survivor pick. But the Jags have proven a little salty, and they've actually scored points in both games. Granted, they haven't played great defenses yet. But I don't know, man. I mean, I love my Chargers, but I'd be scared to death to take 7 in the contest with these guys.
Yeah. I am looking on another odd screen here, and it's showing the opener at 10, which leads me to believe it was probably the look ahead from last week before the Herbert injury and before the Jacksonville Jaguars smashed the Colts. So, yards per play, actually, the Chargers are negative 0.4 net, and the Jags are positive 0.3 on the season. Granted, a very small sample size, and you also had in the strength of schedule playing the Colts and the Redskins Commanders defense. But I took the Jaguars +7, and I still think that there's value on that side because this is a feisty team, and defensively they've played well on the young season as well.
Interesting. Well, probably it could. Well, maybe it's not contrarian with the 7 points. I mean, in the NFL, getting 7 is awesome. You know what I mean? Especially with the 2-point conversions and stuff. We can put a yellow on the Jags because I can't back the Chargers in this spot. I mean, I'm just telling you, like, this is traditionally the Chargers. We love these guys, and they just can't cover numbers. They just can't do it,
And I know it's early, but DVOA has the Jaguars ranked number 2 through 2 weeks this season and 3rd ranked defensively.
There you go. And that was against, what's proven to be pretty good offenses so far in Detroit and Washington. So
after that Monday night game, watching the Titans get smashed, I woke up and thought to myself that I'm going to line shop for a Jaguars AFC South championship ticket, and I bought them at +310 on FanDuel.
You might as well. I mean, the whole division's all a mess right now. If the Titans do end up losing to the Raiders this week, and the Colts lose, the Jags could be in first place, easily by themselves. And if they somehow shock the world and beat the Chargers, yeah, I mean, hell, maybe Peterson's a better coach than I thought. So,
yep.
All right, Rams go to the Cardinals here. Rams open as a 5.5-point favorite, goes down to 3.5. The total went from 51 to 49. Don't love the number at 3.5, but the movement is telling. I'm not sure why. Arizona played a great second half against the defense that I don't know what the hell they were doing. And the Rams, as much as they've been disappointing, I just think they outclassed the Cardinals here. I'm not saying we should take it. Well, what's going on? Are you okay over there?
Oh, garage door.
Oh,
right below here. Oh, that scared me too.
I'm not saying we should take the Rams, but I don't know. I kind of feel like there's some value there. The Cardinals, I'm not sold on, but I'm happy to pass as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like this Cardinals team at all, and I think that you're getting a little bit of extra value. I mean, you've seen money come in on Arizona already this week, 5.5 down to 3.5, and I'd be happy to go against it here. I think that the Cardinals' offense is a little bit overrated, and they're going to go up against a legit defensive line this week, which the Raiders obviously didn't have last week. And further, McVay has absolutely owned Cliff Kingsbury in their short careers. 6-1 straight up, 5-1-1 against the spread, and on those covers, they've been covering by 9 points per game. So I think that it's a big mismatch here in the coaching department, and I'm on board with the Rams.
Maybe it's a green.
Let's do it. Another
All right.
favorite.
I'll have to pick some dogs at some point, I guess. All right, let's go Falcons and Seahawks. Boy, this is a humdinger of a game in the 4 o'clock window. The Seahawks opens a 2.5-point favorite. I don't know when they did that. Now it's down to a pick in the contest, the total 41-42. I was kind of all over the Falcons when it was 2.5 because I do think that, they've been playing pretty good. Seattle, I think, sorry to use the term, shot their load in the first week. But now it's a pick. It's tough. I mean, they probably will win the game, but, that 12th man is real in Seattle. I'm happy to stay away from this garbage fest.
Yeah, I agree. I did play the Falcons a little bit when I saw that line started to move pretty quick. The other day, I think it was Tuesday. I don't remember when it was moving, but I agree. I did hear that the Falcons stayed out west after the trip to San Francisco last week. The garage is closing again, which I think is going to be helpful for them. But I agree. I think it's a pass. No reason to get involved in this game.
Gotcha. All right, Green Bay goes to Tampa Bay, the Battle of the Bays, Bay of Pigs, as Boomer would say. Tampa opens a 3-point favorite down to a pick. Total went from 44-42. This is all because of the injuries, you got to believe. I don't know if I believe it, actually. I know we've talked about these cluster injuries, but Tampa has kind of owned Green Bay when Brady's down there. And my thing is, if it's a running game, Green Bay against Tampa, you can't run against Tampa, right? I mean, Akeem Hicks is hurt, but they still got other guys to stop the run. So, what do you think?
I think the Akeem Hicks injury is big in that side of the ball because we've seen it in the first 2 weeks. The Packers are making some good ground game with Dillon and Aaron Jones, and I think that the Packers are going to be able to move the ball on them a little bit in this game. The Packers are, they're negative in the yards per play department, where Tampa Bay is 0.6. So, there's an edge there to the Bucks, obviously, but the wide receiver injuries on the other side of the ball really scare me for the Buccaneers. I don't really know how they're going to be able to move the ball against this Packers defense, and I think put all that into a blender and it tells me that I like the under. So
yeah.
I don't know if that tells you. Obviously the public and sharps alike also like it because it went from 45 down to 42 now. Right. And maybe it's probably just better off that we pass. I certainly would have liked the Packers catching some points, not a pick 'em.
Yeah. Let's pass. We feel like we got other picks. All right, so the Sunday night game, it's the 49ers against the Broncos. The Broncos open as a 2.5-point favorite. I guess that was when Trey Lance was starting. And now they're 1.5-point dogs at home. You've got the total went from 43.5 to 45. 1.5, 49ers. Jimmy G, I take it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, buying into the hype and everything, but I think the 49ers defense is really good. Russell has not played well. This is another primetime game for this Denver team, which is stupid to me. And unless Denver all of a sudden starts making some plays, open up the playbook, I don't see them beating this team. So I'd probably lay that 1.5.
Yeah, I'm on board. This Broncos offense is just broken right now, and maybe they'll turn it around at some point, but I don't think that the Niners defense is the one that they're going to do it against. I mean, their pass rush is relentless, and I think they're going to be putting some pressure on the pudgy Russell Wilson, which we talked about preseason. He's not going to be running as much, and it's came true so far in 2 weeks. And I think that Jimmy G is an upgrade. This actually did open at this number. I took the Niners at plus 120 on the money line on Sunday night, and I think they're going to win this game pretty handily. So I'm on board. Let's green it up.
Let's green it up, man. We got some green favorites here this week. All right, the last game Monday night, the Cowboys against the Giants. I guess the line was probably set, with Dak Prescott around. So Giants open as a 3-point dog at home. Now it's to a pick, total from 40 to 39 and a half. I'm happy to stay away from this game action. I don't like either of these teams. I know the Giants, they could go 3-0, which is really interesting. Maybe one of, for people listening to the podcast for several years, they're going to be Action's favorite term, the paper tiger,
Yeah.
after week 3. But the Cowboys defense is awesome. I love it, but I don't think it's score, man. I mean, it's painful to watch this team, and it's kind of a shame now that they have nobody with those weapons. But I'm happy to stay away action.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely a sharp move on the Cowboys when they reached the peak here a couple of days ago. I think I saw it as high as 2.5, and all at once there was a wave of Cowboys money that came in that pushed this thing down towards pick'em. And I think that was the right move because I think that this Cowboys defense is going to have something for Daniel Jones and company. But I'm also in agreement that it's not worth a contest pick.
Right. There you go. Well, let's see how my likes versus our likes are. We didn't put the Colts on there. That's a stay away. That's fine. Buffalo, yeah, we're both on that one. We both liked. Well, I like Tampa. You didn't. So we stay away from Baltimore. Carolina, I think we stayed away from. Yep.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, we both like. And then Tennessee too. So let's look at this card again. So we like the Eagles -6.5 on the road, Tennessee plus the 2 at home, Bengals -6 on the road, Buffalo -5.5. The Jags could be that other dog if you want to put it on the card at +7, and then the Rams -3.5 and 49ers -1.5. So we do have 4 greens on there. So it's really just deciding which of those other games we like. They are all favorites action. So it would be, if we go that way, we'd only have 1 dog. Just, we can think about that. So.
Yeah, and road favorites to boot. So
yeah,
home field advantage be damned.
exactly. FU home field. Well, let's go over the contest in general. So we had a tough week, 1-4, as I mentioned at the top. So season record 5-5. We were up there at 210, man. Now we're down to 1880th. That's okay. We'll bounce back. The top dog is 10-0. There's 15 of those, and there's the top 100. You got to be 9-1. So looking tough for the quarter, but hey, we can bounce back over a season long, and got to get our sea legs and get these metrics on the right side. It has been, in my mind, and you always say this, the first 2-3 weeks of the season is very hard to predict, and it was crazy last week. And even our picks, I thought some of them were okay, some of them were bad from the outset, but we kind of got snake bit in a couple situations.
Yeah, I mean some late game variance in the Carolina Giants game, and then also in Rams Falcons certainly did us in. But I think now we need to focus in a little bit, see if we can get things right back on track here, weeks 3 and 4, and then we'll be going strong into quarter 2.
Great. Well, hopefully he's listening. My, volleyball partner, I think I told you about Shake and Bake, Team Shake and Bake. That was our big tournament this year. So Bake's out there waiting, anxiously for the pop-up on Spotify. So he was bugging me at 4:30. He's like, no podcast. So I know your dad's looking too. Like, we'll get it out to everybody on Thursday night for once, okay? So give us a break, man. We're trying to have some fun too.
Yeah, that's right. And pick winners.
That's right. Well, hey, follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter, at Side Action Podcast on Instagram, and follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right. Good luck, everybody.